Hi and welcome to the channel. I am Laura. This is Kuhn, Kraft Yoga and Design. Today's class is a nice warm up into the hips. And like most of the classes you'll find on this channel, there will be a mixture of some longer holds with some movement so that we can activate into those deeper joint areas and into the muscles that surround the hips. We'll also get some good work into the lower back. So by stretching and relieving any tightness that you have into your hips and in that area, you should also find some relief into your lower back as well. We're going to go ahead and get straight to it. Go ahead and take a seat on your mat. We're just going to come to a seat right in the middle of our mats, and we're going to warm up with some active 90-90 shapes. So most of us have done windshield wipers, and as we do them, we usually are dropping the knees from left to right. As you can see here, my right glute is lifting up off of the mat. We usually do this just to release any tension that we have in the hips, or maybe we've been holding a pose for quite a while and we just need to wriggle out of it. So to start in a different way this morning with this practice, we're going to make these 90-90 positions a little more active. So I want you to come as you would in your normal 90-90. Take a seat, have your feet flat on the floor, and so that your knees are open wider than your hips. Hands can come to the back for support. And then as we start to drop the knees to the left, we're going to only go as far as we can take it on this internal hip rotation here on the right side. And you can see that this time my right sit bone stays glued to the mat. So we're just trying to keep the knees in the same parallel position. And then I'm going to stop right here. I'm not going to lift my glute up off of the mat. And then I'm going to take that movement over to the opposite side. Now the left glute stays in. I'm pressing the left knee down, but I'm keeping the glute connected to the mat. At the same time, I'm trying to open up the right hip in external rotation and press the right knee down towards the mat. So these are going to go a little more slowly than you would in your other windshield wipers because we're actively pressing and starting to warm up the hips. Very slowly, let's move from left to right. We're going to take about 3 rounds each side as we move from left to right. Notice the difference you might feel here from the left to the right side, especially as you change from the internal to the external rotation. You can pause as the knees come to the side and then focus on that, keeping that movement. We'll take one more round over towards the right. We're going to take this same shape, but we're going to change it up and make it a little more challenging. So this time as we come to the left, we're going to drop the knees to the left, keep the right sit bone glued down, but lift the right foot up. So my hip does pick up off of the mat a little bit, but I can really feel the hips starting to work by picking that right foot up. If it's too hard, go ahead and keep your foot on the ground and you can just still take your active windshield wipers. This time dropping the knees to the right, trying to pick the left foot up off of the ground, and then lowering it. We'll go again to the left, dropping the knees, trying to pick that right foot up, keeping the right glute as low as you can, connecting to the earth if you can, and then lower the foot down once more over to the right, and then maybe lifting the left foot up off, and then let's go ahead and lower it back down. Very good. From here, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together as we would in our bound angle or butterfly pose. We're going to start by making this pose a little active by activating the inner thigh, and again bringing the hands behind us, and we're going to just flutter the legs, flutter the knees, lifting them up and down. Getting a little movement now that we had that active 90-90 position, probably creating a little bit more heat into the hips and into that inner thigh area. So we'll flutter the knees for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead, come to stillness. From here, let's sit up nice and tall. And then let's take the hands and we'll interlace the fingers underneath the feet. We'll start to lean forward. And as we lean forward, we're going to drive the elbows into the shins and then also press the inner thighs down, maybe using the strength of the legs to press the knees down towards the mat as much as you can. Press and hold here in your butterfly shape for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and relax the pressure that you have on the legs. And from here, we're just going to go ahead and walk our hands out in front of us. Take a passive forward fold in our butterfly shape. You can allow the back to round and the head and the neck just to lower and relax. Maybe give the neck a little shake so that you can release the back of the neck. Find your breath here. A fold is a lovely spot to stop and notice the breath as we have this internal working, focusing deep inside ourselves, moving the breath once more, especially if we were holding it during any of those active movements. Sending the breath in through the nose, all the way down the throat, filling up the lungs, expanding through the ribs, sending it down back through the hips, feeling some sensation, relaxation in that area. And as you exhale, noticing the space that we've created, maybe sinking a little bit more closely towards the feet. Maybe you notice the knees feel a little bit more heavy. And when you're ready, go ahead and walk yourself back to an upright posture. We're going to spin ourselves around to lie down onto our backs on the mat. So as you lower yourself down onto the mat, we're going to come into a reverse tabletop position. So bringing the shins up to parallel the mat. And then the arms at your side so that they can kind of anchor you in this position. We're going to work on some active internal hip rotations, and I'll start with the left side just so you can see it more clearly here on camera. And I'm going to keep the knees exactly where they're at, so pinned in this point in space. From here, I'm going to rotate the left foot out towards the left, so it almost comes off the left side of the mat, and I could feel the entire inside of my left leg start to rotate in, feel that hip start to move inward, and then bring it back to the inside center line. Let's go for 5, rotating out to the left, and then bring it back to the midline. 4, keeping that knee in line, and then draw the shin back to parallel. 3, moving the foot off to the side. Slowly and with control, bring it back into midline. 2, moving the foot off the side of the mat. And then drawing it in. Stay strong in your core so you stay stable and still throughout the upper body. Last one. Draw the foot off to the side. And then bring it back to the center. We'll do the same thing but now on the right side. You can do as I did and have the hand on the outside of the right glute just to feel that movement of the hip and the glute as it activates and fires as we draw the right foot off the side of the mat. Keeping the knee in line, we're going to draw the shin back to parallel. We'll take 5 more of those. Rotate the shin so that the foot comes off the right side of the mat, turning the hip into internal hip rotation, and then draw the right foot back to center line with control. Moving the foot out for 4. Drawing the foot back in line. Slowly move the foot. And then draw the shin and the foot back into parallel. 2 more. With control, draw it in. Keep the navel pressing down the back, lower back connected with the mat. We'll make our last movement off to the side. And then draw the foot back into midline. And very good. From here, we're going to set both of the feet down onto the mat. We'll come into a reclined figure 4. So we'll cross the right ankle over the top of the left knee or the top of the left thigh. And then you can stay right here in your reclined figure 4. If you'd like, you can take the right hand and press into the inside of that right inner thigh and press the right knee away from you, feeling a stretch into the front of the right hip flexor. And also expanding on the outside of that right glute. If you want to make this more intense, you're going to start to draw that left foot in. Maybe bring the hands, the right hand through that hole that you've created in between the legs. You can interlace the fingers through the front of the left shin, or you could also take them to the back of that left thigh, whatever feels good for you. Try to keep the right foot flexed. This activates the muscles along that right shin and also into the right calf. That activation helps stabilize the knee and keep it protected as we come into this very straight 90-degree position. Hold here and breathe as you start to draw the left knee down and in towards the torso. I feel a little extra oomph into that right hip by driving the right elbow into the inside of that right knee. So we're still pushing that right knee away from us, even if we are drawing the legs in towards the body. Slowly release the left foot down. Keep the cross of the legs. From here, we're going to come into a reclined twist. Kind of enjoy a nice little stretch here. You can allow the right knee to come directly onto the left knee, and then we'll roll over onto the very side of the left hip. Coming into our reclined twist, you can take the right arm out to the side or into a cactus shape. And the left arm, if you like, you can have it just resting on the outside of that right inner thigh. Try to keep the right shoulder connected with the mat if at all possible. If it does not reach the mat, just try to keep that broad openness across the chest, across the collarbone, and feel for that intention of drawing the right shoulder down and towards the earth. Enjoying your stretch here in your reclined twist. Option from your reclined twist, you can stay right here, or you can also come into cat pulling its tail. So for cat pulling its tail, we're going to allow the left knee to drop down, and then the right knee will stay up closer towards the shoulders, so still drawing across the body. But the left knee is pointing straight down, and you start to draw the left foot behind you. Maybe grab a hold of that left foot, if at all possible, with your right hand. So we're giving the left foot a little tug, and then you can even start to straighten out the right leg. Maybe reach for the right foot with the left arm. I'm going to keep my gaze neutral. You can still take your gaze towards the opposite, the back side of the room. Getting a big stretch here, a big twist. You should feel a nice stretch. If you have the leg fully extended, you should feel a really good stretch into the glute and all the way down that right leg. When you're ready, we're going to slowly release the right leg, release the left. Take your right arm, press into the mat to push yourself up to a seated position. From here, we're going to come into our deer pose. So we're going to take the right shin and align it with the top edge of our mat. The left shin should be aligned with the longer left side of the mat. To make this a little bit more comfortable, if your hips don't feel like they're quite there yet, you can keep the shins in at more of a 45-degree position, so a little bit more closely to the body. That will make this a little bit easier for you. More challenging will be to have that straight 90-90 position. Now from here, this is already a good stretch into the hips, but we're going to challenge ourselves and make these muscles activate. And we're going to start with the back leg. The higher up you are, the more challenging this will be. To make it a little easier, you can shift forward and have your fingertips down onto the earth. So starting wherever it feels good for you, we're going to start with 5 lifts of the back foot only. Everything else stays grounded. And from where we're at, we're going to lift the left foot, start to rotate the left hip down and in towards the mat, and then lower the foot down. We'll go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very good. Go ahead and release it down. If at any time you want to take some windshield wipers and just kind of wiggle any tightness you have in the hips, go ahead and take a moment. When you are ready, we're going to try a different movement. This time we're going to work the front leg and see if we can challenge ourselves and lift the front leg and shin up off of the mat, trying to stay nice and tall in the spine. From here, we're going to lift the front leg and then lower down. Again, you can press firmly into the mat. You can lean forward to make it a little bit more easier on yourself to modify. And we're going to take 5 more of those. We'll lift and lower for 1. Lift, stay strong in the core. That will help you out here. And lower. Lift up for 3. Gently place the shin back down. 2 more, lift and relax. Last one, lift and hold. And rest that leg back down. Very good. We're going to move to the back leg this time, and we're going to try to lift the back leg. For me, this is a lot more challenging than the front leg. Wherever you're at. Again, fingertips can be on the earth. You can have hands in front of chest. That will be harder. You can lean a little bit more forward. That will take some of the weight off of the back leg and make it a little bit easier. We're going to go for 6 of these. And wherever you're at, let's start to lift. Press into that front shin. That will help you lift the back shin as well. And lower. Lift up. And release down. Really press into that right leg. That'll help you lift the left leg off of the ground. Lower it down. I think we have 3 left here. Lift and lower. Sorry if I lost count. Last 2 and down. We'll lift it up and release. Very good. If you'd like to take a little release of the hips and knock the knees back and forth from left to right, go ahead. We're going to take one more movement into our deer pose. And this time we're going to do some deer pose reaches. So again, the right shin is in front of us. We're going to take the hands out nice and straight, stay strong in the core, and start to reach forward over that front right shin. Really feel that right glute fire, and then bring it back up. We'll take 5 more of those. Lower down and reach. Lift up for 5. Lower down. And lift for 4. Reach out, stay strong. Lift for 3. Reach. And lift for 2. Reach. And lift for the last one. Very good. Feel free to take a moment for your windshield wipers. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and bring the hands in front of us. You can start to draw the right shin in towards yourself. And then we're going to go ahead and step the right hand to the outside of the right foot outside of the right hand, coming into our lizard pose. A big, big hip opener here. And so from this posture, we're going to start up on our hands, and we have the right knee snugged up against the outside of the right upper arm. We're going to make this a little more active by tucking the back toes and lifting the left knee up off of the mat. As you do so, you should feel a bigger stretch into the hips. And then from here, if you're able, you can lower your forearms down onto blocks or even bring the forearms all the way down onto the mat, really intensifying the stretch. Hold here and take 3 breaths. If you were lowered down onto your forearms, let's bring ourselves back up onto our hands. And if you're able, with that back knee lifted, maybe make yourself into a long lizard and walk the hands out in front of you, reaching the chest down, sinking the hips even further, stretching out into your long lizard. Very good. When you're ready, walk the hands back in. You can lower that back knee. Step the right knee back to meet the left. And from here, we're going to go ahead and sit back. You can cross the ankles and come to a seat. From this seated position, we're going to make our way into our fire log pose. So this time in fire log, we're going to have the left knee the left shin stacked on the bottom, and then the right shin will stack on top. If fire log is too intense or just too much on the knees for you, you can take the right shin and just have it directly in front of the left. That will help take some of the pressure out. You could also sit on top of a blanket or a block to bring the hips a little bit higher. That will help you in aiding in your fold. So when you're ready, we'll go ahead and walk ourselves forward and take a nice fold here in our fire log posture. Just allow the head and the neck to relax. And the torso can just drape over the top of the shins. You can always stay higher. Come to the point where you're feeling that nice deep stretch into the outer hips. Remember, we're always looking for the intention and the sensation that we feel in our own bodies, and we're always going to feel it differently in each body. So some will have to come lower, some will need to sit up onto a folded blanket. We want to feel this into the outside of the hips, and you should feel also a nice stretch into the low back as well. When you're ready, go ahead and walk yourself up from here. You can stay where you're at. I'm going to spin myself around so I'm facing the camera. We're going to come into a head to knee pose, but an open version of the shape. So we're going to open the right leg out to a diagonal, and then the left foot will come to the right inner thigh. The hips, as you can see here, my hip points are facing more open, so I'm not going to be leaning directly over the top of the right leg. I'm going to go ahead and take a side bend over towards the right side. My hips are open. From here, we can take the right forearm to the inside of the right leg, or perhaps to a block if you have one available to you. And from here, right foot can be flexed or pointed, whatever feels good for you. We're going to start to side body lean over towards the right. As you do so, keep the chest rotated, gazing up towards the sky, trying to get some sunshine onto that collarbone. The left arm can either come for a bind behind the back, or if it feels good, you can also bring the left arm up and overhead. Very big side body stretch here. As you do, we're going to go ahead and keep the breath moving and hold in this side body stretch. Very good. Let's softly inhale and bring ourselves back up to seated. From here, we're going to spin back around and then roll back onto our backs. We're going to do the other hip, that entire sequence on the other side. So rolling down onto our back. Making our way here, we're going to move right into that reclined figure four and draw the left foot over the top of the right knee. From our reclined figure four, same as before, totally optional. You could stay here and press into the inside of that left inner knee, getting a nice stretch here, or you can start to draw the right knee in towards the body, perhaps interlacing the fingers at the front of the right shin, or even to the back of that right thigh. And then start to draw the knees in towards the body. Press into that left knee, keeping it pushing away from you. Flexing the left foot. Allow the hips to feel heavy. The backside of the body fully connected with the mat. Relax the face. And then when you're ready from here, we're going to drop that right foot onto the mat, coming into our reclined twist. So we're going to allow the left knee to come over the right and then drop the knees over to the right side of the mat, moving onto the very outer edge of that right hip. Finding our twist, left arm can come out to a cactus shape or extending it out long into this nice long T shape. Again, keeping that broadness across the collarbone and driving the left shoulder down and open. Perhaps reaching the mat, but if you're not, we still want to keep that shoulder open and moving down. Again, if you want to take the advanced version of this twist, you can come into cat pulling its tail. So I'm going to slightly separate the legs. I'm going to move the right knee down so it's more directly in a straight line from my head down to my right knee. And then that right foot, perhaps I can catch it with my left hand, giving it a tug. At the same time, if you want, you can extend the left leg out long and catch the left foot with your right hand. I have a couch in the way, so I'm going to just keep my twist, my variation of cat pulling its tail with a bent knee in the left leg. As I do so, I'm still pulling on the right foot, but I'm also pressing into the outside edge of that left thigh, trying to press it down into the mat. So almost like I'm giving myself a little extra push in my twist, opening up the collar, still breathing all the way down into my lungs, filling up the back body and the front body. Exhale, maybe finding a little more twist. When you're ready, release that back foot if you had it. We're going to come back onto our backs, and then maybe softly push ourselves up, and we'll find that 90-90 position, this time with the left leg in front. So adjust your shins if you feel like you can make the full 90-degree position today. More power to you. Or if you'd like to keep the shins in closer to the body, that might feel more comfortable on your hips. From here, we're going to start those active movements. We'll begin with the back leg with our foot lifts, the foot lifts only. And then you can stay high in your torso or lean forward if that makes it a little bit easier for you. But always come to a point where you're challenging yourself. We're going to lift the foot for 6 and lower. This hip is much harder for me. Lift it for 5, release it down. Lift it up for 4 and release. Up for 3 and down. 2, we lift and lower. Last one, lift the foot and then release it back down. You should really be feeling that in both hips actually, but your right hip obviously is working to try to do that internal rotation, which can be quite challenging. Next, we're going to work the front leg and try to pick the front shin up off of the mat. From here, again, you can do this without any hands, or you can have your fingertips on the mat. We're going to try to lift up for 6. I need to have my fingertips down for this one. And 5, and lower. 4, lower down. Try to stay strong in the core so that you stay very stable and you're lifting the leg only. We have 3 left. 2, and 1, we lift, and then lower the leg back down. Moving to the back leg, again, we're going to try to lift the entire leg and knee off of the mat. As we do so, we're going to challenge ourselves again. Go for 6, lift, and lower. Up for 5, and lower down. It doesn't have to come very far up off of the mat. It can be just barely lifted or just that sensation of trying to lift. We're going to go for 3 more. 3, 2, and 1. Very good. Lower it down. If you need to take a couple of windshield wipers to release your hips, go ahead and take a moment and prepare. Next, we have those deer pose reaches that we'll be moving into. We're going to take 6 of those. When you're ready, find your position and get set up. And then we're going to take the arms straight out in front of us. Stay strong in the core and then start to reach, hinging forward from the hips. Come as far as you can go. If you feel like you're falling over, don't come down as far. And then lift up for 1. Reach and lift for 2. Reach forward and up for 3. Extend the fingertips out and lift for 4. 2 more. We're almost there. Reach and lift for 5. Reach and lift for 6. Wonderful. From here, bend that left shin in, make some space. We're going to plant the hands down onto the mat, step the right foot back, and then just leave that left foot up to the outside of the left hand. So we're in our lowered lizard lunge on the left side. The left knee is snugged into the left upper arm. Right now, the right knee is down. If you want to make this more challenging, we're going to lift that right knee up off of the earth. Feel a much bigger stretch into the inner groin and into the hips. We're still sinking the hips low, trying to reach them down towards the mat. And if you'd like, you can even lower down onto the forearms. This will make this much deeper. Keeping the hips low, but at the same time, keeping the right knee up off of the mat, trying to straighten the right leg. And we'll hold here for 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and lower that back knee to the earth. Press yourself up onto your arms. And then from here, we're going to step that left foot back. We'll come into our fire log posture on this side. This time, the right shin is on the bottom. The left shin will be stacked either on top or in front of the right. If your knees are lifted in your fire log pose, that's fine as long as you don't feel pain into the knees. When you're ready, we're going to take a forward fold in our fire log, bringing the forearms either to blocks, maybe to the mat, or maybe just walking a little bit forward with your fingertips. Continue to breathe, relax the face. As we get into these intense hip postures, it can be really common to tense the jaw and to tense the space in between the eyebrows. Maybe give yourself a little smile. Sometimes all we can do is smile as we try to relax and soften into the posture. On the next breath, let's walk ourselves upright. We're going to come into that form of head to knee with the sideways bend by extending our left leg this time out to a diagonal and drawing the right foot to the inside of the left shin. Again, this is an open hip posture. We're going to take the left forearm down to the mat and start to side body lean over towards the left. And if this is as far as you go, maybe you stop right here. If it feels good, you can take a bind and wrap the right arm behind you. Or if you took the arm overhead on the other side, maybe you want to take that on this side as well. We just want to avoid keeping the chest rolled down towards the mat. We want to stay open and lifted in the chest. No need to force or pull this posture in any way. Allow your breath to move through your body, finding space where you need to create it. On the next breath, let's lift up. We'll extend the right leg long out this time, coming into a wide-legged straddle. It doesn't need to be super wide. Just find yourself in a fairly comfortable straddle and trying to keep our back straight. If it's really difficult for you to keep your back straight, then you need to sit a little higher so that the hips can open and allow that hinging forward of the upper body. So fold a blanket, sit up on a block, and then wherever you're at, we're just going to start to bring the torso down, even just a small amount, maybe just an inch or two, trying to keep the back nice and flat, working on a stretch of the inner thighs and groin. This is first thing in the morning for me, so I am also quite tight this morning. I'm not even going to try to get close to the earth. I'm just going to enjoy this nice inner stretch. You'll hold here for about a minute. So this will be one of our longer holds for the practice today. Don't be afraid as you feel the legs start to open. Or if you just feel more relaxed in general in this position, you can allow yourself to come a little bit more closer to the floor. And when you're ready, walk yourself up. From here, we're going to move into our yogi squat. So let's draw the legs in. And you can always take your yogi squat on a block, but today we're going to try to not use the block because we're going to make some active movements in our yogi squat. So wherever you're at, I'm going to continue facing the camera for the squat just so you can see the movement that we'll be making. My feet are a little bit wider than hip width distance and the toes are turned out. From here, I'm going to squat down. Now, if your heels touch the floor, that's great. You have very mobile ankles. And then if they don't, you can stay up high. You can stay up with the heels lifted as well. It's a great practice still to remain here in your yogi squat with your elbows pressing to the inside of the knees. Wherever you're at, even if the heels are lifted, we're going to try to take some internal and external rotations of the hips. So the more challenging version will be to not use your hands and just allow the right knee to come in and then bring it out to the side and then left knee in and then bring it back out to the outside of the elbow. To make this a little bit easier, you can have the fingertips behind you, your glutes still lifted up off of the mat, and then do those the knee movements inside and then out. Or if that is still too much, you can have your glutes rest onto the mat and still work the hips here by having the knees drop in and then out. So several variations to take. Wherever you're at, we're going to try to do 10 of these total. So we're going to start by dropping the right knee, lifting it up, left and up. That's 2. Drop and lift. You can do these at your own pace. That's 4. So if you need to take these a little bit more slowly, by all means go ahead. We're at 6. That's 8. Last one down. And then back into our yogi squat, wherever you're at, finishing up your last couple of rotations. And we'll hold here in our yogi squat and breathe. Chest is lifted, spine is straight. Crown is reaching up towards the sky with the elbows pressing into those knees, driving them wide. Maybe using the strength of your own knees to open up and press them away from the body. Very good. Finally, we're going to press the hands down, lift the hips up, and just take a nice dangling pose. I'll turn to the side here. You can keep a nice bend in the knees. Maybe grab to the outside or the opposite arm. And perhaps dangle here, swaying from side to side. Releasing the low back, releasing the legs, and giving the hips a little break here in our dangling pose. And then if it feels good, you can take the hands down in front of you and start to straighten and bend one knee at a time. We did work a bit into the back of the legs as well. Doing those several postures, straddle, and also our version of our Janu Shirshasana. Just ending up our practice, easing out. And then when you feel satisfied, go ahead and softly lower the knees down onto the earth, returning to our hero pose at the center of our mat. Sitting onto our heels, we'll take a nice big breath in. Inhale the fingertips up towards the sky, and then draw the hands down through heart center to close our yoga practice for today. Thank you for showing up on your mats today. I hope you enjoyed class, and you should feel a good amount of heat into your hips and also into your glutes for this class. I hope you have a great week. Make it a good one. Bye.